Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadidamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. I was driving today when a phrase suddenly came into my mind, and the phrase was, "Surrender, Dorothy." And I started laughing because in The Wizard of Oz, surrender was a threat. But on the spiritual path, surrender may be actually one of the highest acts we can make. In today's episode, I'd like to explore this topic of surrender and how it can help embellish your life in really miraculous ways. So namaste and welcome to the Spiritual Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Savithri Amba. I'm a Reiki master, Vedic healing master and priestess, and spiritual guide who has practiced and taught spiritual self-development and healing for more than 35 years, led pilgrimages to India, and studied with blessed Indian gurus. In this show, we cover topics related to metaphysics, Reiki, Vedic healing, yoga, manifestation, spiritual growth, and feng shui, based upon my studies and work in these disciplines. The aim of this show is to help you awaken, develop, and tap into your spiritual power in order that you may live well, manifest your dreams, and ultimately fulfill your unique divine destiny. So welcome to today's episode, and it is centered on this one word, surrender. Now, I didn't plan to do this episode, and most or maybe all of my episodes are not consciously planned. They are downloaded. They are coming from the intuitive voice. So I was driving in my car and I heard that phrase, surrender, Dorothy. And most of you will remember that from The Wizard of Oz, the movie and book that most of us of a certain generation or a certain age loved very much. And that surrender, Dorothy, was the phrase that the Wicked Witch said to Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz when she was telling her basically to give up, to give in, to lose, to admit that she had been defeated. So many times when people hear the word surrender, they think those kinds of terms. They think, oh, that means I lose, I'm giving up, I'm becoming passive, I'm going to just stop trying and just completely throw in the towel. But that's not actually what surrender means, although it is probably one definition of surrender. The fuller definition is something that we embrace in spiritual circles, in our spiritual path, and it is such an important and fascinating topic. And honestly, I cannot tell you why this came to me. It's not as if I was thinking about a problem over and over in my head, although if I had been, that would be the greatest solution to the problem. I feel that I received that guidance because I was to speak about this today and really ruminate on it and share with you some nuances and of this topic, and a little story from my guru, and how this concept of surrender can be so incredibly powerful in your life. So, surrender. Surrender, I would say, might be one of the most courageous acts we can do as human beings, because the idea of surrender asks us to release our need to control. To release our need to control. Now, most of us are trying very hard to control things in our lives, and this is one of the reasons that manifestation sometimes stalls, because we are trying to control all of the elements of this thing coming into being, this dream that we want. But we know in the process of manifestation, there is a beautiful act, an element, which is the letting go, and that is the surrendering. I think of this word also and this concept in the morning when I'm doing my yoga asanas and I find myself in a child's pose, and also when I am prostrating myself in front of my altar. There is an act in the Vedic teachings where you have finished all of your prayers, or actually this can be done at the beginning also, when you are saluting an altar or a divine space or a guru, where you prostrate in front of the altar. And women usually do this in a kneeling fashion. Kind of, it looks like child's pose, but your hands are out in prayer position and your forehead touches the ground. And men often will do this fully extended, their whole body lying flat on the ground. So it is an incredible act. What it is it is a giving in to the divine wisdom and a letting go of our ego. So again, in manifestation, we have this dream we're trying to create, and there is a part of the process where we must let go of the need to control everything. You know, as human beings, we want certainty, we want guarantees, we want to know exactly how things are going to work out. It's like we want the whole map, and we want to know everything that's going to happen to us along the way. But the journey takes us from where we are now to where we want to go, and we can see the routes, the different available routes. But there must be a letting go in order for us to get from point A to point B, because sometimes we're on a route and there's a diversion. There's a diversion on the route. I just thought of this. One time I was taking a group to India, and we were going to a certain beautiful site. It was a palace we were going to see. And we set out on the route. And that day there was some unrest. There was something going on, and there was a strike. The workers were striking or something. So the road was blocked, and there was only one road to get us from where we wanted to go to this palace. And this was about midway or towards the end of our journey. And the reason I'm telling you this is I remember witnessing how everybody acted or reacted, to this experience, because what happened was the bus had to stop, and the bus driver and the assistant bus driver, there's always a guy helping the bus driver, had to go figure out what was going on, had to get out of the car, have this conversation with the guys in the street, and figure out what's going on, how long is this going to be blocked, what is it about, is there an alternative route, can't they let us through, we're a group of tourists, we're going to this palace that we really wanted to see, on and on. So there was this great dialogue. And often when we go to India, as foreigners, I will say that India is going to test us, because we in the West sometimes are used to our creature comforts, which is fine, but we're also used to extreme efficiency, shall I say? Not that there is not efficiency in India, but there is a lot of room for adaptation, because there are a lot of elements at play, because there are a lot of people, there are animals on the road, there are just so many different circumstances that might occur and throw off your perfect plans. So I watched and witnessed everyone on the bus, and I remember thinking, if this had been the beginning of our trip, people would have been annoyed. But because we were midway through, or nearly all the way through the trip, it was towards the end, like maybe 3/4 of the way through, people were great. They were laughing. They were just going with the flow. They had basically released or let go of a lot of the tension in trying to know the outcome to everything and trying to be in great control. And they just laughed and they said, well, this is India. We'll see what happens. And so we had a great laugh over it. And what happened that day? So the bus had to turn around. The bus had to turn around. We could not go through. And we had planned that we were going to this palace for the day. So quickly, we had to make another plan. And I was the host. So I had to create an alternative experience that day. And lo and behold, where we ended up was an ashram. And lo and behold, the guru of that ashram, who is often not present there because he's traveling, was there that day. And when we arrived, lo and behold, he was about to give a discourse. And we all had the opportunity to sit in the meditation hall with spiritual seekers from all over the world and hear this beautiful discourse and see and tour the ashram. So what started out as a day of frustration potentially turned out, in our surrendering of the situation, turned out to be a really beautiful and uplifting experience. So my point is to think about how often maybe you are trying to force an outcome, and all of the times in which your efforts are just not enough. And in those kinds of moments, really, we are being asked to surrender. Not to get frustrated, not to get angry, not to get impatient, but to surrender to the circumstances, maybe to laugh and just to accept. Now, I remember my guru used to say this beautiful phrase. He used to say, the highest yoga is a life lived in surrender. And then he would say, in complete surrender to the divine. And I have carried that teaching with me for many years. I remember him saying it. I have thought about it. I have used it in my own life. And not because it sounds like some beautiful concept, but because it was a real teaching. So what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like in your life? Can you be truly in surrender every day? You know, every day we have meetings and interactions with people and experiences, and we often have preconceived notions about what those experiences are going to be. But when we surrender everything to the divine wisdom and just relax into the moment, we receive clarity, we receive power, we receive gifts that maybe we wouldn't have if we had been in resistance. My own Reiki master used to say that how did she put it? She would say, not exactly like this, but I'm going to say it. She'd say that that all upset is caused by unmet expectation. So if you can live your life without that expectation, those expectations of others, of yourself, of how a meeting is going to be, of how an experience is going to be, then you live in a really childlike space of surrender. And I've said this before in previous podcast episodes also, that my guru in India used to say, be like a child at the feet of the divine. And that gets me very choked up because I think of that phrase every morning when I'm in child's pose in front of my altar. And I hear his words. I hear his words. I hear him saying, be like a child at the feet of the divine. So often when you do yoga, when you do meditation, when you do Reiki, when you do your spiritual practice, you come to the practice with all sorts of ramblings in the mind. And as you move into the practice, you move into a place of serenity. And the last place that you find yourself is a place of surrender, because you have let all the thoughts go, that you've kind of disconnected from them, or you've transmuted them, let's say, into light. And so all you can do at that point is surrender. And that's why some of those asanas are so powerful. If you think about each and every asana you're doing and what the meaning is behind it, you will derive great, great benefit. So, when you're doing Surya Namaskar, you are greeting the sun. You are acknowledging the sun. You are calling forth the energy of the sun into your system. You are acknowledging yourself as a part and particle of the divine, personified in the sun, in the light of the sun. So many beautiful elements of these asanas. And in Shavasana, you are also surrendering, not with your head down. This time you're lying on your back. You're lying in Shavasana, and you are completely open. Your palms up. You are open, ready, and willing to receive what is coming for you, what is coming into your life. And so I think often about this term surrender. Can we truly surrender? Can we surrender our plans? Can we surrender our fears? Can you give up to the divine wisdom, the timelines that you are holding for your own manifestation? You know, sometimes we have these set ideas about when we are supposed to achieve certain things, and we get stuck in comparing ourselves to other people. Can you give all that up? Can you really surrender and say, all is well? Can you surrender your need to know all the details about how something's going to work out? Remember, in manifestation, we often say, in the process of conscious creation, of manifestation, we often say, give up the hows. It's not for you to figure out the how. That is the job of the divine wisdom of the universe, of source energy. It is simply for you to put forth your dreams and to move in the direction of your dreams. Be open to the little nuances along the way, just like we were open to the fact that seeing that palace was not going to happen on that trip. And it wasn't going to happen that day. And actually, it didn't happen on that trip at all because we had to keep moving. But what we received instead was perfect. So can you trust that there is an intelligence at work that is greater than your individual mind? I don't think that surrender happens once. I think it happens continually. You have to be reminded, maybe daily, hourly, in interactions you're having with people. Every time we are presented with something we can't control or something that doesn't go our way, we are being asked to trust. And we are being invited to be open rather than contracting. And I would say the main thing I want to convey today is that surrender is not a weakness. Surrender is actually a strength. It is the most important element of the practice. Just like Guruji said, a life lived in surrender to the divine. The highest yoga, he said, is a life lived in complete surrender to the divine. So surrendering is our strength. It takes tremendous strength to remain open when life is not showing us the full map. It takes strength to keep your heart open when maybe you would like to shut it down. It takes strength to trust in the process, to release the idea, the illusion really, that we are running the whole show in our lives. So surrender does not make us smaller. It makes us more open, more infinite, more graceful, more available for guidance, and more available to the beautiful unfolding of our lives. So I want to challenge you today to ask yourself, where in my life am I being asked to sit in complete surrender? And what would happen if you stopped pushing against whatever the situation is? I'm not saying give up. I'm not saying quit. I'm not saying give up your dreams. I'm saying trusting, being open, being ready, being willing, and being, again, like a child at the feet of the divine. So that what that means is being so innocent and so hopeful and so expectant in a way that is so unattached. So when I say expectant, remember I said my Reiki master used to say that we must give up expectations. But that doesn't mean not being expectant. We're going to expect the best. We're going to expect beautiful occurrences, but we're not going to live in expectation where we are controlling everything. So this is where the power lies, in this notion of just complete surrender and letting go. And we feel that in our bodies when we do a really beautiful yoga practice or a really beautiful mantra practice. And we just move into the sounds of the mantras, the sacred sounds, knowing that they are, I've said this before too, they're like friends and they are guiding you along the way. You know, there are mantras for all sorts of situations, and it is said that when you chant these mantras and you are initiated into them, as I was and as I do for people who are interested, that a spark is forged between you and the mantra. It's just like when you learn Reiki, you are initiated into it. And when you're chanting these mantras, a part of you naturally, in the beginning, will say, is this mantra really doing anything for me? And much later, you learn this mantra has been guiding you all along. This mantra has helped something quite beautiful unfold in your life. So in that notion of surrender, there's one other thing I want to say, and that is to accept every single experience in your life as being a teacher for you, a guide. This is part of the notion of surrender. So you're never in resistance to anything, and you're never giving up. You're simply saying, if this situation did not go my way, there is something here to teach me, to help me, to spur me on, to inspire me to be better. And so you are surrendering to all experiences, the good and the seemingly bad, with the idea that all is really perfect. So there is no good or bad. It is all just perfect. And when you can live like that, you experience a great calm and a great tranquility and a great peace that no one can take from you. This is the bliss of spiritual wealth. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Sai Ram. Jai Guruji. Om Amrite Shwarye Namaha. Hare Krishna. Om Namah Shivaya.